A new way to look at IRAs in retirement next on Retiring Today. Welcome to Retiring Today. I am Molly Nelson here with Loren Merkle. Loren is a certified financial planner, a certified financial fiduciary, and a retirement income certified professional. As you get closer to retirement, Loren, you have to kind of rethink your IRA. But let's talk about IRAs in general. They're a popular way and can be an effective way to save for retirement.
Yeah, and they are really popular because there's so many benefits to an IRA, and they've been around for so long. They were first introduced in 1974, and in 1974, the IRA of the 74 looked way different than what it is today. As an example, only banks offered IRAs way back then, where now you can literally get an IRA just about anywhere. And that's one of the benefits to you now is in 74, you could have a bank product underneath an IRA, where now you can have just about any type of investment you want to, which is really important for those looking to make a transition to retirement and insulate themselves from the roller coaster ride of the markets, because you can create a really diversified portfolio in an IRA today, which is extremely difficult in 1974.
And let's talk about one of the other perceived or benefits when you're first setting up that IRA is that the money that you put in, you can deduct that from your income and essentially deduct that from your taxable income.
Yes, everybody likes that. Saving taxes this year, that is really powerful when it comes to IRA strategies. In 1974, the maximum you could contribute to an IRA was $1,500 per year. And the best part is that $1,500, you didn't have to pay taxes on it if you could deduct it off of your taxes. And even better, that $1,500 you put in would grow tax deferred, which means you didn't have to pay taxes on it until way down the road in retirement when you took it out to live on. That's when that tax bill became due.
And we know, Loren, that some of those IRAs have really grown. We know that some of the families that started investing in IRAs early on that are getting ready to retire have really IRAs that can really supplement their retirement income. That's one way that people maybe are familiar with the IRA. The other is a rollover of maybe a retirement savings account.
Yeah, one of the most powerful contributory retirement vehicles is the employer-sponsored plan. That's your 401k plan, your 403b plan, and other employer plans, because you can contribute way more to those than what you can in IRA. So you've been able to accumulate this massive money for retirement underneath the employer plans. Well, when you leave that employer, many of you have chosen to move that money from the employer plan to your IRA. So now you're on the doorsteps of retirement. You have all this retirement money in the IRA, and now it's a matter of how do you use it to produce that income over the course of your retirement.
And we talked about thinking about the IRAs in a new way. And if you think about the IRAs as kind of a debt, really it's a tax deduction. It's simply a loan, and it's a loan that you might have to pay back at maybe the worst possible time, which is retirement.
Yeah, one of the best things about the IRAs is you didn't have to pay taxes on that money, and it grows tax deferred. That was really helpful in your working years as you needed that other spendable income to put the family, to raise the family and
pay
college,
the mortgage,
and pay all the
stuff.
bills. But now you're on the doorsteps of retirement, and you realize that your pre-tax IRA actually is debt. So I have a good example at the board, Molly, that we're going to go through to explain that concept of how your pre-tax IRA is actually debt. But let's rewind the clock a little bit. You're 10 years away from retiring, and you're really starting to think about this magical time when you don't have to work anymore, but you're focused on paying off your debt. So you work really hard to pay off the debt so you have more discretionable income in retirement. Now you're 2 years away from retiring. The only debt left is your mortgage. And so you're really focused on paying down your mortgage. And in fact, you realize that the biggest debt that you had over the course of time was your mortgage. But now you've worked really hard to pay that off, and you're ready to retire. So you're ready to retire, and you realize, in fact, you're not debt-free because the income that you're taking from your IRA is still taxable, which is a debt to the IRS. So what we're going to do is we're going to show you how no tax planning versus tax planning going through retirement can really increase your spendable income and decrease the debt that you have to pay to the IRS. So first, we're going to say you don't do tax planning. You retire, you start taking income from your pre-tax IRA like you've always planned. You have a good life over the course of retirement because you have that income. And essentially what takes place is you pay $190,000 over the course of your projected 25-year time frame in retirement. You started with the $500,000 IRA, and you paid $190,000 of that tax debt to the IRS. doing no tax planning. But you're not done paying your taxes, because when you pass away, you still have a balance in your IRA that hasn't been paid, that tax bill that has not been paid. That is paid by your beneficiaries to the total of about $120,000. So if we add up the tax bill that you paid over the course of your life and the tax bill that your beneficiaries paid when you passed away, that totals about $310,000 of IRS debt that you paid on the starting balance of $500,000 pre-tax. So you had a comfortable retirement, but the question is, can you do better? Can you increase your spendable income, which means you increase your discretionary income, and can you receive a little bit more out of your $500,000 over the course of the retirement? The answer for most of you is in fact yes. So in this strategy, we're incorporating a Roth conversion strategy. Now, simply a Roth conversion strategy is you have the pre-tax money, you take a piece of that pre-tax money and you roll that to a Roth IRA. Now, in the year that you roll that to your Roth IRA, you are taxed on that amount. But once it's in the Roth IRA, it grows tax-free forever. And then when you pass away, it goes tax-free to your beneficiaries. So in this example, you're just using a simple Roth conversion strategy. Over the course of your lifetime, your tax bill is only $130,000. You pass away, remember your beneficiaries don't pay any taxes, any federal income taxes on the inheritance from a Roth IRA, so they don't pay any taxes when they receive that. So if we compare these two strategies, retire, take income, and ride off into the sunset versus having a tax plan, the tax plan produces $130,000 of tax debt versus about $310,000 of tax debt, which means there's a $180,000 difference between a plan and not having a plan. Now, Molly, I said only $130,000. $130,000 is still a lot, but it is significantly less than $310,000 that in the hypothetical example, you would have paid by not incorporating a tax plan.
I'm just dreaming about all the extra stuff I could do with $180,000 extra dollars in retirement. And that is a significant amount of money, especially if you maybe even invest that money and grow that money, or I'd rather go on a vacation. But let's talk about the Roth conversion strategy. Is this something that people start before they retire, once they've retired? In this hypothetical example, how did it work?
Yeah, it's really different for everybody. In this example, just like in real life with our families, as we're working with the families and individuals through their tax plan, it has to be customized and it has to be really intentional. So this particular strategy was just a 5-year strategy once they retired, because they made really good money when they were working, which means their tax rates were higher. Once they retired, their tax rates were lower, which really created an opportunity to fill up those lower tax rates with those Roth conversions. Now, you may be in that situation. You might be in a different situation. Maybe you can actually start converting prior to retirement. So this is something that is very much on an individual basis and has to be analyzed each and every year. So we start with a tax plan, but that tax plan can change depending upon a lot of different factors.
And I've got to think, if you're sitting in the pre-retiree stage and someone's saying, oh, pay more taxes now to pay less later. Again, that's a little hard psychologically rather to get over. But when you can see it in numbers, then you can really see how it works, analytically.
That's one of the powerful aspects of the planning that we do. Is we're not just telling the families and individuals that we work with, here's what you should do. We're showing by building out that plan. And once you can see it, then it really hits home on the long-term and short-term impact of incorporating these types of strategies, as opposed to say, just trust me, sure, it's gonna work out. But when you get to see it, it's that much more powerful, which gives you that much more confidence to pay now as opposed to paying later.
If you're looking forward, which is what you help people do, you help them think about, hey, well, here's what we're gonna do right now, and here's what's coming. Guess what's coming for a lot of people in these IRAs? RMDs. So let's define what RMDs are, and let's talk about IRAs and RMDs.
RMDs are related to pre-tax retirement accounts. So we're talking about your pre-tax 401k plan, your pre-tax IRA. You made a deal with the IRS. When you put the money in, you're not paying taxes on it. It grows tax deferred. And when you take it out, you will pay taxes on it But you're thinking, or some of you are thinking, wait a minute, I don't need the money right now in retirement, and the IRS knows that. So what they also put attached as a part of that legislation is at some age, they're going to mandate you take out a minimum distribution. So that's required minimum distribution. And that age has changed over the years. Right now, for most of you, it's probably age 73. If you were born in 1960 or later, it's age 75 when you have to start taking these required minimum distributions, and then you're taxed on those distributions that you take out.
Yeah, and we want to redefine the way to think about RMDs, not as something that, oh, that's coming, I'm going to have to take that money out, I'm going to have to pay taxes on them. If you start retirement planning before RMD age, there are some things you could do that would maybe reduce your taxes and reduce your RMD.
Yeah, well, a lot of times people will think, hey, I don't have to take the money out. I don't want to be taxed on this money because I don't need it right now. I'm going to wait till RMD age, and that may be appropriate for some, but for many, that is a wasted opportunity. And so within our tax planning strategies, we say, let's look at paying taxes now versus paying taxes later, especially if you can pay less tax now versus what you would pay later. That RMD becomes a surprise for many people. And not necessarily that you have to take money out, many people know that, but the tax bill associated with that RMD is often the surprise. Because at age 73, or age 75, whatever it is for you, you've already taken your Social Security. And if you've incorporated a Social Security optimization strategy, you're getting really good Social Security income. You might have a pension. Those sources of income you don't want to turn off. You can't turn off. That is income for life. And then you have that required distribution coming from your IRA stacked on top of that. That for many people, especially if you've done a really good job of saving, can push you into a higher tax bracket. And now that higher tax bracket is the minimum tax bracket forever. And that's assuming that the tax rates don't go up. And many people feel like tax rates are probably going to go up before they go down. So waiting until RMD age is kind of the old school way of thinking. The new school way of thinking is let's take advantage of these tax rates now while taxes are on sale, and then get money converted over to the Roth IRA where it goes tax-free forever. But again, not one size fits all are these strategies. You have to make sure it's right for you.
Yeah, one way to think about it, I read an article that said required minimum distributions versus unrequired distributions. And for some people, thinking of those unrequired distributions can be advantageous.
Yes, it can be advantageous, but it's really hard because you are making the conscious decision to pay taxes today when you don't really have to. But if you, like the board example, if you're in that situation where you can turn your retirement tax bill from $310,000, or for many people it's even more than that, to $100,000, $130,000, in the Online Journey to Retirement Workshop, we show you strategies that John and Sue incorporate to save over $100,000 off their retirement tax bill. So pay now versus pay later can work for many people, but you have to be really intentional and make sure the strategies you implement are right for you based on all of your circumstances.
And one more strategy worth touching on briefly is, of course, an acronym, QCD.
Qualified Charitable Distributions is what that stands for. And essentially what that means is, even though your RMD age may not be till 73 or 75, the Qualified Charitable Distribution strategy becomes available to you at the early age of 70 and a half. So what you do is you take money from your pre-tax IRA, and you can send it direct to any qualified charity, and then you don't have to pay taxes on that distribution. And it can suffice, once you are RMD age, it can suffice as your RMD. So as an example, let's say your RMD, your required distribution is $13,000, but you give every year to let's say your church, $6,000. Well, instead of taking that from your bank account where you get really no tax benefit, take it, do it as a QCD. It comes from your IRA. That's $6,000 less of a required minimum distribution, goes direct to your church, benefits them, and you do not have to pay taxes on that gift. So in a world where most people don't itemize anymore, because most people, 90% of us, take the standard deduction, this is a way to receive some tax benefits from your charity.
Okay, we spent a lot of time today talking about really IRAs, so investments and taxes, but there's a lot more on people's minds when it comes to retirement. They're wondering about healthcare, and they're also thinking about, do I even have enough to retire? The Journey to Retirement Workshop looks at the big picture when it comes to the retirement concerns.
Yeah, which is really what everybody who's looking to retire should do. You want to look at the full comprehensive retirement landscape. We say you get one shot to get this right. And in the working years, you have a lot of time on your side to make up for potential mistakes. In retirement, many of these decisions that you're making are often permanent decisions. So in the online journey retirement, through the hypothetical couple of John and Sue, we walk you through the 6 pillars of what should go into a retirement plan. And we show you the strategies that they incorporate to help them with their lifestyle pillar, accomplish the lifestyle goals. What kind of income strategies, tax planning strategies, legacy planning strategies, health care planning strategies, and of course, investment planning strategies to help them accomplish all the goals that they have.
This is Retiring Today, and we thank you for watching. If you like this video, click here for more great content. Don't forget to subscribe to be connected with others just like you who are looking for engaging and entertaining retirement strategies.